Imagine starting your filmmaking journey with an old Commodore Amiga computer and ending up directing high-profile TV commercials. Sounds impossible? Well, our guest today made that happen. From scrappy one-take videos with borrowed cameras as a kid, to studying graphic design, to mastering motion graphics, Christian Bevilacqua's story is a masterclass in innovation and resilience. Plus, we get his take on what he values in the director of photography, pitching directly to clients, dealing with agency, and his predictions on how AI will shape the future of filmmaking. Believe me, this is a conversation you don't want to miss.
Action!
So thanks for coming on, man.
Well, thank you.
And let's start the conversation with when do you first remember being influenced by cinema? When was the first? When did the seed was the seed first planted?
Well, funny. Okay, so maybe I guess the beginnings of it was I really wanted to get myself. I was a big gamer. I really liked playing games. My brother had been given a Mega Drive for Christmas, and I think the following year I kept asking for a Nintendo, and I asked for this, and I never got it. Don't know why he got the Mega Drive, but maybe 2 years later I asked for an Amiga, and so I got an Amiga,
a Commodore Amiga.
That's it.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember that. Yeah, yeah,
beautiful machine. And so that was given to me, and so primarily for me that was really something I wanted to use to play games on, but. There was obviously, I'm sure you're familiar with Deluxe Paint. Yeah. If you remember that. Fantastic. Basically the early days of Photoshop, right? But it was like Photoshop mixed with, I guess, almost like Flash or Adobe Animator. Now, like you could animate on it as well as do full manipulation. Amazing. And so that's kind of where I think my interest in it started. Was I was a big fan of doing animation on my little Amiga, and I would get my friends over and we would all like make these little animations over entire days. And then that was seeing video being digitized into the computer and then messing with that. And then of course my mom used to work in the library, so she used to rent from time to time video cameras for me. And so I was faffing around messing around with video cameras, making my kind of own little, as we all did back then, right? It was like the camera was such an amazing device. Now everyone's got it on the phone. You know, I just having the video camera for one day was just such a joy. And then it got taken back to the library, and I please rent it out again. Please rent out the camera. And so I had to wait 6 months till it came back again. And so we would try and make little home movies, but obviously we couldn't edit on couldn't digitize it or anything. So we used to do one take. And if we didn't like it, we rewind the camera to where the shot began, and then retake the shot.
So
and
kind of
try and build an edit on the fly
in camera, kind of thing. Yeah. Much like, have you heard of the Straight 8 competition?
Yeah, that's what they do, isn't it?
Yeah. It's all having to edit in camera. Yeah. There's one Straight 8 one which is amazing, which is this car going off a cliff, and it goes off a cliff several times, and knowing the rules of Straight 8 that I had to trash many cars to get that to work. It's a flashback sequence, but because it's Straight 8, it's obvious that they actually.
I've never seen any of those Straight 8s, but I'm aware of it.
Yeah, there's an event as well, which you join.
It's a competition, right?
And then they show them all in London and then in Cannes actually. So yeah, it's worth it. It's a really good event. I really recommend it. But so you were working, you were playing around with video cameras and computer animation. The origins of computer animation, really, by the sounds of it.
The beginnings, yeah. I believe people did actually. I think I don't know how true it is, but I remember reading somewhere that there was a bunch of Shinola, the directors. I believe they did. I don't know if it's true, but I remember reading somewhere that they used Deluxe Paint to do Junior Senior. I don't know how true it is.
Oh, right. Oh, interesting. Yeah.
I don't know if it's true, but I remember reading that somewhere.
Yeah. So did you, at that point, were you thinking of moving into more animation, or were you?
That's where I started in my career. I ended up, so I went into music videos, but when I began in commercials, we can talk about the beginnings of the music video stuff in a bit, but the animation side was really the very first commercial I got was pure animation.
And what form of animation was it?
Biro in paper. How painful.
Really? You actually drew it all out?
Well, me and a bunch of guys, we were slaving it out. It was for Samaritans, so it was a charity job. Of course, it's your first commercial as well, so you're making no pennies. And so we did 4 weeks of sweat and blood in a production company called Therapy Films.
Yeah,
I don't know if you remember.
I do remember Therapy.
Malcolm Venville and Mark Denton's place.
Yeah,
and so we were in the back room. I was this kind of new commercials director they kind of inherited, I guess, as they took over a music video company called Cops and Robbers. They kind of absorbed that with the directors, and
the director roster was absorbed into their roster.
Correct, and so I was given this chance to do this commercial for Samaritans, which was, the idea was kind of, I guess, if you're stressed or you've got concerns, maybe these doodles that people, are a little bit concerning and whatever, little sad faces and stuff. And so it's a story about that kind of coming to life, this little sad doodle man with all these little hiccups in his life and all these mishaps and how he tries to get back up again but keeps falling over. And so we did that, and that ended up winning a couple of awards, and that sort of helped move me forward.
Sounds like a nice little script actually. Good.
It was a bit of a weird one because it wasn't a script it wasn't a fully fledged script at the time. It was a kind of something we had to kind of evolve with the creatives on, and my way of working at that point wasn't very official. I just wanted to take it and run away with it and start making things. And I think halfway through they're like, it's really good, but wait, we want to be involved too.
Yeah, so they're teaching you the ropes of how it kind of works.
It was like two steps forward, one step back. We had to scrap a bunch of stuff because they wanted to. The creatives naturally. Now looking back on it, makes sense, right? They wanted to be involved, but to me, I was like just running right off in a direction. Who's that? Who's that? Like they can't tell me
that's
what
an important lesson for young directors to realise, that when you're working commercials, it's a collaboration.
It's a team.
Client, agency, production company, and yourself.
I'm just thinking about just collaborating with the creatives. I mean, the fact that you've got to collaborate with all that, the wider team as well.
Will you just explain what you mean by the wider team? Just
it's every time you do a job, it's like it's kind of. You're kind of like a Sherpa, right? Trying to lead people up a mountain. You kind of you're there to help guide them a little bit in the idea that they have written. They spent months putting this thing together. The last thing they want is a director to turn up and be like, I don't need you anymore. See you later, and then run off with it, right? They need to help guide the team, the creative team, and whoever else in a certain direction to try and execute their dream as best as possible. But then when I refer to the wider team, I mean, it's like that's the initial team, but then you've got all these other powers that be, which is your executive creative director or the account team, the goddamn account team. It's like they come up with all sorts of thoughts, and then you've got the client side, and then the client's higher ups, and so even though you think you're quite solid down here, you still got all that to compete with in the heavens, the people that really know what they want, and so you're being struck by lightning all the time, and you have to like readjust. And
was that quite a big learning curve for you then? So are you still learning that process now of how to involve?
It never stops, does it? And the funny thing is that line of communication seems to be, it's like like the universe is expanding, and that the gaps between this universe and our universe is expanding. That's what it feels like. It's the client seems to be drifting further and further away at faster than light speed, and it's getting harder to get true communication.
That's a really good point. I have a friend of mine he was an ex-creative, Steve Hudson, as a director who was first creative, and I remember when I first worked with him, he was the first person to educate me about how important it is to liaise with the creative team in a kind of healthy way. And I remember him saying to me, they wrote the idea, they've been living it for 2 months, why wouldn't I listen to them? Do you know what I mean? And he was the first director, because I think the old school way of doing it when I was first coming up was the director would kind of go off in their own direction, and it would say, like, you like a relay race.
That's the way it was.
You handed me the baton, and now it's my turn to run with it. But Steve was the first person that taught me about the benefits of involving the agency, because it creates a more fluid process. It can do if you get it right. Do you know what I mean? It's a way of kind of negotiating with them in a way.
I agree. I think if you can get the balancing act right, it can not only make your life easier, it can really enhance the job. But every job is different, and you can be on jobs where no matter how well you play the diplomacy, there's maybe still some outlier that you can't control. There's still someone that wants to go off in a different direction and pull the ship apart. Not always, but it's the thing is, at least from my humble opinion, the best thing to do is to go in with kind of zero expectations, at least just be mindful of the situation as it unfolds, that it could go each way. You can't. I think what I used to do for myself is I would be like, no, it's going to go this way, and it's going to be amazing, and we're going to do this, and we're going. Sometimes all these different people, you just can't. No matter how much you get stressed, you just can't control them. Yeah, because they're too far down the chain. Like maybe there is an account person that's out of control, or they have different idea of what it's supposed to be, and they're making the ship go a different direction because they have more power to steer it or whatever. It's like it's very hard to as a director in commercials, it's very hard to be entirely 100% consistent. You can try and play your role, but you're not the captain of the entire ship. There is a lot of other captains, and they're steering the ship just as everyone has a sail, and the wind is blowing randomly. It's like, who gets the wind? I got more wind on this one. It's like, how much power are you giving me? Sometimes they give you a lot and they want to be told. Sometimes they want more. So you have to kind of it's reading the room, isn't it, and navigating, as you say, the different sort of levels of power. But that, the universe expanding you were talking about, and the client being further away from the director is actually it's really interesting. Seems like there's been a bunch of jobs I've done recently where, I mean, we all know budgets are not getting any bigger, right? And I'm just amazed that I'm finding myself on these projects where it's like, Christian, budget's kind of tight, and you're like, yeah, but we, it's our job to still try and make this work. Okay, so we try and make it work. And then as you win the job and you go further down the line, you start finding out there's 2 agencies involved in the project. You're like, what the hell is going on here? This is why there's no money. There's just more and more people parasitically feeding off these budgets. Like, the bureaucracy seems to just increase sometimes rather than decrease.
Yeah. I guess it's down to how they kind of win the job and how the politics around the winning of the job.
That's bizarre.
And and it's like, because I mean, the commercials are known for kind of not being the most efficient way of getting everything on screen, right? It's and that hurts me as well when when I'm on a job and I can see money's being wasted in the wrong areas, and it's not gonna, the job won't benefit from that. Like everyone flying business class, and then you ending up with not having the right camera equipment. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
I'm flying economy around to the other side of the world. No, I hear you. It's funny.
That's part of the
18 clients turning up in first class.
But it's part of that. I mean, it's like part of the, like you say, it's part of the animal, isn't it? It's just that's what commercials is, and it has that kind of, it's ultimately, I always, a friend of mine explains it to me like we were kind of like almost like a kind of exclusive hedge fund of people flying around the world, like a creative hedge fund where we'd be paid a lot of money to basically, to be the creative kind of influence on, fundamentally what is a financial transaction. And sometimes as kind of film school students or whatever, or artists or whatever, we forget that we're being employed. And
that's true. That's true. And you also forget that, you're being employed and you get to travel to maybe nice parts of the world and just shut up and do the job for 2 weeks and go home with a paycheck, and it's nice and just be nice. But we are all victims of like wanting the best project possible, right? And especially as a director, I mean, you can put in painful hours on a treatment and you win the job and you're like, thank God, hallelujah, I've got this one, and it's for the showreel too. I'm going to make it the best goddamn project. And we all start to get very personal about it, and it's very hard to step out of that. And just take a little bit of a step back and be like, everything's good. Everything's good.
The danger is getting too excited too early on about a project, and
maybe too passionate too early. Just let it set sail a little bit and see which way it's going before you get too
before you get too invested in a certain thing. That's really good.
You can have your dreams broken very quickly. I think so. I think that's important.
One of the rules I have.
Go slow.
One of the rules I have now, slightly separate issue, but I tend not to even look at a script or a treatment too much until I know I'm definitely doing the job. Because there's so many times when you invested in a job and then it goes away, and it's like a little part of you dies because of that. So it's better to kind of keep your powder dry until you know that that it's definitely going to happen.
Sure,
firstly, and then, like you say, it's until I've spoken to the director. What I try and tend to do is not have too many ideas until I've spoken to the director, because all I'm doing is I'm just creating barriers rather than like a.
The director's maybe going to have ideas, or the director doesn't have any ideas, but the agency have many ideas, and that's being fed into the director, and you don't know which way it's going to go. So I agree. Have ideas, but just maybe not throw them all out like a tsunami of thoughts, and as you said, like it can create a little boundary at the start. It's like just
so to hear, to listen first a lot, and then piece it together after that, and then. It's like and the other thing I think to myself is, how can I add value to this? How can my skills add value to what they're doing, rather than and try and just find a way of trying to get some value in there that I feel that they wouldn't have got with someone else. Let's go back to your music, because you mentioned music videos earlier on. So you did the animation for
Samaritans.
Therapy, was it?
The first commercial was for Samaritans. That was animation.
What company was that again?
Therapy Films.
Therapy, also, yeah.
And then prior to that, it was the music video company. It was Cops and Robbers.
Cops and Robbers. So your career kind of started from when you first entered into the industry. It was as a music videos director, or?
Yes, I was mentioning to you just before we got recording that I had my first kid quite young, 21, 22. And so that, like I was saying, that put a fire under me to try and sort myself out. And so I didn't have the intention of being a director. I had the intention very much of, at that point in time, there was a kind of a trend. It was such a cool thing to be part of, but it was kind of like motion graphics. So this kind of animation-y kind of, I guess, graphic design, but alive. And so if you ever remember the Channel 4 idents back then with the lines that used to move, like that was the beginnings of that stuff. There was a festival that used to travel around called 1.0 that was very artful, cool. Like, I mean, you look back on it now and it's really crap, but it was like a spinning cube with some like digital sounds, and everyone's like, "Oh, that's so cool, so edgy." And it was basically a new form of artistic expression coming through the home computer, and so I was very much into that, and so I seen myself going down that route, and so I wanted to animate on a music video. That was kind of my thing, was to see, or at least just being an animator of some sort. And so, like I said, I had my kids, so I'm getting all excited about trying to get my work out there. So I was burning DVDs, as many as I could afford, which was not very much. I didn't have any money. I was eating pure basmati rice for lunch and dinner. I was so poor. I was so broke. So time's running out. My kid's going to get born soon. So I'm like, I had to make money. And so I'm sending out DVDs, and I ended up, my friend phoned me, and he was up in Glasgow, and he said, "There's a music video competition. I want you to help me on it." Okay, so I went up, and we put a kind of a pitch together, and we did a little test. And I didn't know how to use the software, so I was cursing and swearing, and it was crashing, because computers crashed every 5 minutes back then. And so we put something together, and then we presented it, and we got picked, and so we got £5,000, which was at the time, that was a tiny budget. I think that's now a big budget in music video. That's how it's changed. But we got $5,000 to put a music video together, so it's fantastic. So we ended up getting a little green screen shoot put together, and it was a music video that we put together on a shoestring and worked round the clock to try and achieve. But it was, by no means were we trained in the art form of filmmaking. We kind of just did it from heart, and so that came together, and it came out for who we were. I think it came out really well. And that then became part of my showreel that I was sending out, which had a bit of live action on it. And so then I'm sending that out, and I talked to I sent my showreel out to a person called John Hassey, who was the man in music videos at the time, and he said he was kind enough to meet me, and he said, I think you should talk to someone called John Mole, who was at Mute Records. I think John Mole's maybe still going at Mute. I think. And so John Mole was kind enough to look at my showreel and actually give me my first music video, and then my second, and then my third, and then my fourth, and then I had a showreel of sorts. And I think that's kind of where I ended up getting into a little bit more of the live action side, was because I was, generally speaking, I was always a bit more animation focused, but then there was that bit of green screen, and then the person on the green screen with a lot of animation around them, and then that became a bit of a set, and the green screen got smaller, and then it got smaller, and then suddenly it's full live action, and you know.
So your early music videos were mainly animation, were they?
It was a very heavy green screen work. Yeah.
Right.
So like you might have the band on green screen, and then I would do something around them.
Right.
For example. I mean,
so a combination of motion graphics and live action.
Yeah, that kind of thing. Yeah. I mean, it's pretty crappy if you look at it now, but technology back then was so limited. I'm amazed we even pulled it off. But I mean, I was literally doing this stuff on a laptop.
And were you shooting the motion on film or video?
God, what was that? I mean, I certainly shot some of it on 16mm. I remember that. We could just about afford 16mm on a 20 grand budget. But I think we did some smaller budgets for about 10 grand, and is this around the noughties then, would you say?
What's that? Time frame wise?
How old was I?
Yeah, what period, what time were we in? Was it the noughties?
It's about 2005
yeah,
to 2000,
right, yeah.
2004 to 2005 to
right.
2007.
Yeah.
About then. Napster had come along and leveled the industry.
Yeah. I think the Alexa had just been released around that time, hadn't it? The Arri Alexa, or maybe that's
no. I don't think we were there yet. It was definitely still film. I was shooting when I moved into commercials. We were shooting 35. The digital hadn't really kicked off at that point. There was the early digital cameras, but I forget, it was Genesis or something, was it?
Yeah, right. As Panavision was Genesis maybe.
Good.
Yeah. So that would be way before the Alexa. Then that was if it's Genesis, it would be the D something.
We would shoot 35 for the most part in the commercial side. But yeah, we were. What was the? Is it Digibeta?
Digibeta, yeah. Digicam.
We used to shoot on that. Rotten.
Which just looked horrible. It looked horrible, didn't it? It was like the worst kind of television.
And it was interlaced.
Yeah. It's the sort of thing you want to shoot a porno on and nothing else, right? It's like it doesn't work for any other format. It just feels like you're harshly.
It was bad. Yeah. It was bad, and then you're trying to like remove the green, and everyone's head was like all steppy and stuff.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Rotten.
Yeah. People don't know how easy they got it nowadays, do they? With the digital formats.
Yeah.
So that was so then now we're getting to Therapy, your first commercial, the animation.
Yes.
Biro pen animation, and then, but you have your music video showreel presumably at this time as well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's what got me the commercial. I think really it was Mark Denton was kind enough to sort of. It was a very low budget script that came in for a brand called Parker's, which is the one I gave.
Yeah.
And Parker's was. It was only a 20 grand thing, and I think Mark was, he's got these young directors and he has to do something with them, and so the script for Parker's came in, and there you go. So, again, you might recognize this chap Bricktop from Lock Stock.
Oh yeah,
Two Smoke Barrels. Right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So he stuck his head on a puppet.
Yeah.
And basically he's a dodgy car salesman.
Yeah.
He's like trying to sell you a crappy car.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like a little bit of a play on, there you go, Thunderbirds.
Yeah.
Kind of.
And the cars, they're
just little toys.
Little toy cars, yeah. And that's the rest of it's green.
I still got that puppet. Kicking around. So the idea was that he's this dodgy car dealer trying to flog you these little toy cars, right?
Yeah.
And you can go to Parker's for some good advice on what to buy.
Yeah.
So that won Golden can for Best New Director. the Young Directors Award, and that helped kind of kickstart things, I think, a little bit on the commercial side.
And you're always going to go out on your own, were you? Because you were working with other animators at the beginning. You were saying that was it always going to be your?
Yeah, I mean, it's you look at this stuff now, and it's very simple. Like there's the polish is very different to what we can achieve now. But you have to remember, we were just kids doing this.
But that's also part of the charm of it as well.
Well, it is. I mean, it was definitely more stylish as well. I think everything's very clean now.
Yeah.
A lot more grungy back then.
Yeah. Had more texture, didn't it?
Yeah, people weren't necessarily trained on doing it certain ways. I think there's, if you want to do something now, you can get the best tutorial on YouTube to do it and execute a problem. Back then, we were just feeling around in the dark.
Yeah.
Tutorials don't really exist in the same form as they do now.
Yeah.
So, but that was, essentially, it was a green screen shoot with Mr. Bricktop. I forget his actual name. And puppets and stuff. And so we threw that together. And
what's it like directing your first actor? Because he's quite, obviously quite...
He was quite a personality.
Yeah.
He is actually like that in real life.
Yeah. So you just said, be you. And it was all,
He
yeah.
was.
Yeah.
He was. It was nice. I mean, you're kind of young and you're a little bit nervous, right? And I'd never gone through film school in any capacity. I'd never...
What age were you at this point then?
Maybe about 27.
Right.
I think.
Yeah.
Roughly.
And what was your formal education?
Graphic designer.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't want to say self-taught, because we're all self-taught when it comes to filmmaking.
Yeah.
There is no right and wrong. You just watch movies, right?
But you did a graphic design course to become
Robert Gordon's in Aberdeen. Yeah.
Right.
But I said at the time, I was like, I really like this motion graphics thing that's kind of kicking around. It's an exciting new form of image making. My tutors were like, oh, well, if you want, we don't teach it here, but if you want to, Christian, you can do it. We encourage you. So I basically set about finding out what the software was, got myself a copy of After Effects 2 and had no idea how to use it. And when I say this, I'm being legit here. Like I was so, I think, like they say your brain figures things out when you sleep. I literally had a dream how to use After Effects. And I woke up and I was like, okay, I think I know. And I got on the computer and I literally knew how to use it from that day onwards.
That's brilliant.
Yeah. Obviously, a lot of the nuances I had to learn through practice, but getting over that main hurdle, my brain had figured out in sleep.
You had a download,
I've been freaking out about it. I'm like, I have to figure this out.
Yeah.
Because again, there was no tutorials back then. I have to figure it out. So I'm like stressing. And I think just the stress, it just built up somewhere in my head. And then in my sleep, I'm like, figuring it out. And then it just...
That's great. Yeah, it's really interesting. It's like being in a flow state or something with, like when people suddenly kind of, they write all the lyrics to a song in a moment because it's kind of being, fed to them by the great mystery or whatever.
The great mystery that is.
Yeah. But that's really interesting. Yeah. So so the gods clearly wanted you to become a graphic designer.
It would seem.
Motion graphics person. Yeah.
Well, it led me into, obviously that was one thing that After Effects led me into the world of filmmaking. I think that's when static becomes moving, and it was something that I had an iMac, one of the first iMacs, so you could take a camera and you could digitize the footage in. So I was filming stuff. There was a cool little design company back then called Tomato. I don't know if you know.
Oh yeah,
and it was all like out of focus shots of like flowers and like abstract music and like poetry being written. I was so into that stuff.
Same. I thought it was the coolest thing I've ever seen.
It's kind of the 1.0 stuff. That's like all that.
It's like kind of where fine art meets kind of
It's like video art.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. That's the sort of stuff I was into, like super like loving it. And so it was like using After Effects was a way to combine the formats, right? Put the typography on, like pretentious crap, whatever you could find, and you whack it on. You felt like you were very intelligent.
Were you ever interested in video art as well? Sort of speaking of fine art,
I think video art is definitely something. There's some fantastic stuff that you get out there. I think you can see work by Universal Everything or various. I actually went to an exhibition recently in Korea. It was kind of cool. I forget all the names that were. I think Fuse were there, and there was forget the name of the guy. He's got a long name, so I can't pronounce it. But Maxime or something, whatever it is. And anyway, so they're doing all this kind of pretty cool video art stuff, but it's a lot more glossy now, right? It's kind of lost the grungy vibe that Tomato used to have. But I think Universal Everything they did the better pieces there at that exhibition. And they have a kind of fairly iconic walking character they might have seen. No, you don't know them. You should check them out. Yeah, but video art is you get, like I said, I think Korea is very good for that, because you walk around in Korea, you walk around in Seoul, and you get these the land of LEDs, and you get these wonderful sweeping buildings with the LED goes around it. And so if you walk towards the building in a certain way, it creates the false perspective. And so they have these like cars driving, looks like it's coming out of the building, right? It's like cheating perspective.
Interesting.
So you're getting all this like kind of really cool.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's essentially it's commercials, but it's I think the Koreans are very good with the video stuff, the video art side. Wherever you look, they're doing some kind of video exhibition. I don't see it as much in London.
Yeah, I was actually listening to I'm obsessed with light, and I was listening to a documentary about the downfall, the retirement of all of the neon in Hong Kong. So they used to have all these big neon signs, and Hong Kong's obviously known for the sort of misty neon look, and that's now becoming obsolete because there's some new. They've never had a health and safety rule there, so you have these signs because it's such a condensed place. You'd have the signs stretching over the street, and now they have a law whereby if any signs are over a certain age, it has to be dismantled because it's a health risk to falling down. So they literally
they're worried about it falling over.
Oh, we're worried about the neon falling down and hurting, and getting us.
Does that happen?
Potentially, I mean the neon.
Or is this just that China has taken over and they're just
maybe it's
their own rules
maybe it's something to do with that as well. Yeah, cleaning up. Yeah, but it's lost all its character now because of that. And there's these graveyards of neon.
Assimilation. It's like absorbing them.
Into but everything's been the neon's been discontinued and the LED's taken over. But there's these people in there that these old neon. Because it's all glass bending, kind of craft, and this is old neon. Yeah, that's real neon. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. It's gonna fall on us.
Yeah. I'm so scared. Keep looking.
But that's it. I mean, so they can't. So they have this whole graveyard of old neon. It really made me sad because I don't know about you, but I grew up with Wong Kar-wai films, Chungking Express, and I listened to Christopher Doyle talking about how he used neon as a kind of.
Is he still going? Is he still?
Yeah, I know it's a good question actually because he is an alcoholic, right? So
he was getting on a bit.
He was getting on a bit. Yeah, you'd wonder how that long-term health consequences of that.
But he's still going.
But he still seems to be
good man.
Yeah, I know. I'm very impressed. He's got that tough kind of army quality to him. He
just won't give up.
Yeah, you kind of get this the sort of more feature film DOPs. I've always thought of them as more army guys because they can just kind of get in and just keep going.
I think there is a bit of that to the DP thing, right? I think you have to be doing long shifts. You you travel the world, you turn up on set, and you're like, okay, straight onto the shoot, and you're like, jet lag to hell. Yeah, you work your way through it, and then you're getting on a plane to go somewhere else. Yeah, I think it's a tough. It is.
Job. Yeah. I mean, I that's my lifestyle for many years, and now I'm actually enjoying being more in London. And
as a director, it's hard enough. Like you travel somewhere, but you get a bit of time before the shoot. So you kind of adjust, and I couldn't. I mean, being a DP and doing that.
But there's two types of DOPs. There's two types of ways you can run your career. One is to be a jobbing DOP, which is exactly that: turning up, doing the thing, moving on. The other DOP, which are kind of more my sort of style, was getting in with certain directors and not taking on every job, taking on the jobs that you could really give your best to. And then I'd say to the director, I don't mind coming a bit early and kind of working, going to some of the directors' recce's with you and whatnot. So early on in my career, I got in with a couple of directors that really liked that. They liked that support. And I really enjoyed that process because I could see, I could be on the ground when the job's building and help make decisions in terms of location and stuff that otherwise when you turn up a day before you're shooting, everything's been decided and it's too late.
Not necessarily the best decision.
Yeah, it's too late. Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, if you're into kind of just that sort of lifestyle but you will get burnt out, as you say, after,
It's a rock and roll lifestyle.
Yeah, it is. It pretty much is. Yeah. So should we, should we start looking at some work?
What do you want to talk about?
Right. Well, so do you want to? Because we're kind of doing a chronological kind of, direction into your work.
Yeah.
What do you think? Should we start with some earlier stuff, or what would you like to start with?
I don't mind. I mean, I sort of feel like let's talk about this year.
Yeah. Okay.
Now.
Yeah. Okay.
And just kind of what's been going on, then we can talk about some of the older stuff.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Let's do that. Yeah.
But yeah, I think at the start of the year I finished off Samsung.
Yeah.
So that's maybe.
Should we get Samsung on? Yeah.
That one was shot in Cape Town. And I tell you, Cape Town's changed a lot since last time I was there. I think they've really struggled since COVID.
Yeah.
So
I haven't been there for years.
shell of a city now.
Really?
Oh my. Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely.
So this is this is all locations, right?
It's all locations.
Yeah.
All locations.
And you had a good props person there to build all of these.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wickus. He was a good boy.
Yeah. Yeah, because I can see that there's a lot of thought put into the props and it, like that, for example.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
a lot of bits
And
made.
so, and could you talk a little bit about the VFX elements here? Because at the end, when you have the sort of montage sequence and the trainers are running, is that
Yeah, there's elements.
just that's pupil shot as well? That's sort of really nice.
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, here obviously there's it's a green screen out there, and she's on cables and whatnot.
Yeah.
And,
This
it was really, you know, as a piece of work, it was just nice to do something that was 90 seconds. I think it was the first time I've done a 90-second piece.
bit more.
They you know, it's not usually the 90 seconds come from the director's cut.
Yeah, you don't get asked.
This was
that.
like, you know.
Do you think that could increase now because the way high-end commercials are moving now? It's I mean, in a way, the traditional television is dying. Everyone's on YouTube now, right? But there are the streaming services, and the streaming services are starting now to realise that the subscription model's not working for them so much now. So they're offering advertising.
It was always on there. They knew what they were going to do when they need to keep their shareholders happy. You know,
right?
You could see. I said that a long time ago. I said, I bet you, at some point when Netflix runs out of, you know, they can only make so much out of this model. I bet you at some point they'll turn to commercials.
Yeah,
it's not going to happen. I was like,
yeah.
It does. You have to make money.
Yeah.
And the next best way to do it is going to start introducing advertising.
Yeah.
And everyone's going to start doing it. And then before you know it, you're paying for a subscription model on Netflix, and you've got, or whoever, and you've got 20 commercials before your show.
Right.
It's going to go that way.
Yeah. But will those commercials be, do you think they'll be slightly longer form pieces? Because do you think they'll be more like short films?
Well, there's that too. I mean, I think this, you see, you have two ways of consuming your films or whatever, right? Or your content. The first is active, and then you've got your passive. And so your active is like, if you're on YouTube, for example, I want to watch that tutorial. I want to watch, you know, I want to get to this podcast, right? You're active. You're sort of like searching around for Googling your way around. I want to see this. And so you can't watch things for an extended period of time. It's very irritating because you want to get somewhere. But when it comes to something like Netflix or you're sitting back and you're passive, you're relaxing, you forgive longer commercials, or you forgive a longer amount of commercials, much like TV, because you're just dozing off eating a bag of crisps and you just like kind of vegging out watching the movie. So you may end up seeing longer stuff happening in that streaming service space, but I don't know if, I mean, obviously Google is very data driven, and they're not going to just start extending the length of commercials willy-nilly. I think they'll be paying attention to people drop off at this. If we run this too long, they'll get the perfect number, but I'd be surprised if it keeps getting longer and longer. I think it's going to be.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're absolutely right. I think for YouTube, it's a 10-second, or it's a, you know, even a 5-second.
Depends on how important they'll know how important that video is. Like, so there's there's maybe a particular video about something that's particularly entertaining right now, and people are willing to sit through a 90-second commercial to get to that video. They'll know that, and they'll game that. Yeah. Based on
but there is hope for the longer, sort of more narrative commercials on the streaming services.
I think so. I mean, certainly when I've done stuff with Asia, they do like long commercials, especially in China. For some reason, I believe the Chinese like to watch their commercials. They've got these long bits of content they like to sit and watch.
And hence Samsung, an Asian client, that's why you got the 90-second.
Yeah. It was direct to Samsung as well. It was straight out of Korea.
Right. Yeah. You were talking about this before we started recording about how it's changing a bit in terms of going direct to client now.
Yeah, it is. And yes, I did mention that, didn't I? And that I have this year. I mean, as you were saying, it's kind of like things are changing, right? Things are moving different directions, and everyone's trying to scramble and figure out what's the new norm. There is no new norm right now. It's like whoever can grapple onto something and hold on seems to be the kind of the method at the moment, and so method in the madness. And so one of the methods seemed to be production companies going direct to client, and that's becoming more and more the case I'm seeing. And so, you've got the visual effects companies with the agencies, with the production companies, all scrapping to get work, but at the same time sort of needing to rely on each other. And certainly from my experience, I've been part of a couple of pitches that I did a big pitch recently for a computer game for Ubisoft, where I'm essentially going in kind of like almost like an agency creative director or something and pitching direct to the client. And that's no small feat. I mean, it's a big undertaking to generate, because I haven't come from agency side, but you can certainly anticipate what it is the agencies are up to. They're not coming up with one idea; they're coming up with many ideas, and then they're trying to whittle down the best ones and then evolve that further, maybe with the client's involvement.
So that's quite a feat in creative writing, isn't it? And in kind of like honing an idea.
Yeah.
Because you don't have that agency training.
An advertising idea.
Yeah. So because that's a whole set of skills in itself,
that
right?
Totally is. Yeah. It's its own thing, and so PsyOp, the company I'm with in America, it got me involved in it, and so it's I think we've put an excellent pitch together. But it's I don't want to say it's a massive learning curve, because I'm in commercials for quite some time now, so a good advertising idea when you see it. But I'm not a copywriter per se, so I had to take that pencil out from the back of my brain and let's get going on this. But it's quite refreshing. I mean, I like trying my hand at different things. I do like getting stuck in. I'm not like, I don't do that. It's not, we can all do it if we want to, there's no excuse. And it's another way to jog a part of your brain that is maybe just sitting a little dormant.
Does the visuals come first in that, and then the dialogue comes later, or how does your brain kind of come up with an idea?
I approached it very much like I would with a treatment. Usually there's a film reference somewhere. So I came up with the idea.
So the Samsung one, for example.
Well, Samsung.
Oh no, you didn't come up with that. That was scripted for you, wasn't it?
This is. I'm talking about the pitch for Ubisoft. You're asking just like how did I come up with the idea for that? Well, but the Samsung was direct to client, and I came up with the idea for that.
Oh right, okay.
As well.
So let's talk about that then.
It was different because I collaborated with the agency on that, so I wasn't alone. I basically won the job with they put a treatment together, and then it was like, here's the ideas for the script that we want to try and achieve, and then they basically were like, okay, well, we'll give you the job, great, and then, because remember, this is kind of like direct to client ish with like kind of couple of creatives inside. It was a strange setup, very different to what we're used to with client agency production, and so they basically took my treatment and then poo-pooed 3/4 of it and made me write more ideas. And then they made me write more ideas. So I've got the job, but I'm actually doing 1 month of creative work for free, essentially.
Creative work, yeah.
Because I should have been charging for it.
That's the creative process, right?
Yeah.
So that's what a copyright art director team would do, and a creative director will come along and go, no, like that, change it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's like, Yeah.
I got spun around a little bit.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, that's interesting how they kind of got free creative work from you.
And I should have seen it coming and maybe like ask for a little fee or something. But I was so far into it, I was like, it's hard to ask for something.
Yeah. But that's how the landscape's changing now. Maybe that's the thing that, like directors not getting paid for treatments, I've always thought is a kind of...
That's a mess.
It's a mess, yeah. Because there's so much work goes into a good treatment. If you really want to win that job, that's a huge amount of work. Yeah. I'd say as much work goes into the treatment as to actually making can be...
if not more.
Yeah.
If not more. Because once the treatment's done, and if it's a very good treatment, you can almost just throw it to your first AD and it can just do its thing. Yeah, right. It can fly on autopilot. But I think if treatments were charged for and directors got a little fee just to say thank you for your hard work, I think it would work two ways. One would be the directors wouldn't be so heartbroken if they don't win the job and then go into a cupboard and cry for 2 weeks in the dark. Yeah. Hating their life and never wanting to do it ever again. And 2 weeks are up and they open the door and they step out. I'm ready again.
Ready for more punishment.
And the second would be, I think agencies wouldn't take the piss sometimes. They don't understand the quantity of work that can go into it. I think sometimes some agency producers do, some just, they're getting a chance to win a job, so they just do it. And I think, if there was a little fee attached to it, then they would be less willing to just, have, I think what I'm getting at is like, I've done treatments and then an agency or client or whoever, just the jobs, it doesn't exist anymore. Jobs been cancelled. And you're like, well, at least you still owe me money. And then that's okay, but if it's free, then they sort of, there maybe sometimes they're jumping the gun a little bit before they've got full sign off. They're trying to get you to do a treatment, and then the client didn't buy it. Sorry, you just spent 2 weeks on it, but it's not our problem. If they were paying us a little fee, then they'd be a bit more hesitant to jump in and get us to work for free. There's a little bit of slave labor going on there. I do think we should get a little bit of a penny.
Well, it's only fair you're actually working and not getting paid for it, basically, fundamentally, on the promise that something might happen in the future, which often doesn't.
And you don't know how many people sometimes are pitching on projects. Sometimes, at least in America, it's more official. They say, the bid pool is 3, and it's official. Wherever else you go in the world, in some markets, I mean, God knows how many. There could be 20 people you don't know. So there's definitely a little bit of a
that's underhand. That's underhand. Yeah.
So again, if there's a little fee attached to it, they'd be less willing to throw 20 directors on it and do their homework and make sure the people they're getting involved are people they actually want.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with that. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Would you mind breaking down the creative involvement with Samsung? Yeah, because I think that'd be quite useful. Do you want to play it again? Do you want to pause at points? Yeah.
So, I mean, well, what can I say? It's a house.
It is a house in Cape Town.
Actually standing upside down. No visual effects there. So we got a little spider there. There we go. It's beautiful.
That's a real spider.
It's a real spider.
Yeah. No motion graphics there.
No.
Okay.
Everything's very in camera on this one.
Yeah.
Which is kind of, it's funny because we're speaking about me and kind of how I started with a lot of the visual effects side, and then I'm showing you a job that's got very little visual effects in it.
Yeah.
But it kind of shows you where
that's the evolution, though. Yeah, that's the evolution.
It shows you where I've come to. Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, cast wise, I remember I was trying to go for a lot more quirky faces and kind of.
Was it all local casting?
Yes. Yeah. All these kind of like quirky folks, and then Samsung come along and they want all these good looking people.
Yeah.
So I lost the quirk.
Yeah.
But regardless, I think everyone did.
And this location here,
it's cool, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, this is the same location. So if you back up, to this one, you get a wide shot somewhere. No, maybe it's later.
I think it's later. Yeah.
A little wide shot. Just play it through. But so that one and the girl with the paperwork, that's in the same location, it was a school for autistic kids. But it's fantastic architecture going on in there.
If you keep playing it, Chris, it'll come up in a. Yeah. There you go.
Keep going. I think actually you've gone back in time, but there was so many empty spaces in there. They got such a huge building. They couldn't fill it up, so there was a lot of places to go shooting in.
Yeah, so that's one of the shots.
Yeah, keep playing.
There's a wider one than that.
Yeah, there is.
And that robot arm, that's a nice.
Yeah, we built that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we built it. Built it, and someone could put their arm in it.
There we go. Wow,
So-
what location? Yeah.
Yeah, someone could put an arm in it and puppeteer that later on.
Yeah, right.
And obviously, it was we had someone turn up in the green suit,
Yeah.
the green gimp suit, and do the puppeteering.
Yeah.
And the Korean creative who was, well, I guess all the Korean men go through, they get conscripted, don't they? But he was just out of the army, I believe.
Yeah.
He was so macho, that guy.
Yeah.
He was really, and he was so angry at the person with the hand who was trying to get this robot hand to do something.
Yeah.
He couldn't speak English, and it's like shouting in Korean.
Yeah.
Stormed on.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's like, what are you so angry about, man?
It's like the scene in what's it called? Bill Murray in the film with Bill Murray and Lost in Translation.
Yeah, there was language barrier for sure. Doing these jobs, but it, I think this was also, we were coming up for the last bunch of shots on the shoot, and I think that everyone's just tired and it was
How many days shoot was it?
3.
Right. Yeah.
But the thing that you don't see in this is the director's cut that the client ended up using. The agency cut. What they made us do was actually shoot in this. I think there's currently in this edit, there's maybe like 5 vignettes or something. There was something more like 8 stories
really
happening.
Christ.
But it was too confusing.
Yeah.
And we had warned them. We said, I think there's too much right now, too much going on. They were like, but we want it to be very cutty and music video like.
Yeah.
Like, what's that mean?
Yeah.
So anyway, they did their edit, and it was confusing. It was quite a mangle of narratives that you're just like, what am I watching? So me and James Rosen, the editor, tried to make sense of it, and my feeling was, let's drop some vignettes. So there was a skateboarder on some kind of hoverboard, and there's a kid on some kind of who goes to school and has a dream to be a robot. God knows what else there was. But and just get rid of them. Goodbye.
Yeah, that's always I find that it's always a shame when the agency write a too longer idea for a lot of time, and a lot of the stuff that you shot on the day, and you're working to like quite a brutal schedule.
It was horrible. Yeah.
So therefore,
way too much to do.
You're compromising on all the shots for stuff that you're never going to use, and it just feels like a really inefficient way of.
It reminds me as well. There was like a whole scene with a dog being walked by a drone. And that was like impossible to get because the dogs were just going in.
Yeah.
The dogs that they chose were like, listen, we don't think these dogs are going to be very well behaved on the shoot. So I recommend this one because it's very, the dog trainer.
Jack Russell.
The dog trainer says this is the one that will behave.
Yeah.
Like, I've only got an hour to film this. Yeah. And so they choose the cute ones that are going to go crazy.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
It just seems that there's this divide between the practicals of filmmaking and their desire in their mind of what they want. It's like I always think they arrive on a film set like a kid in a sweet shop, and they kind of want all of this.
I do. I've often wondered if it's, I thought I could make a fantastic, like, I ditched the directing career, right? And I could go around like a traveling circus around the agencies. I would educate
them. Yeah.
Some of these younger creatives about what it's like to be, what we would like you, or how you should behave, or how to get the best out of a shoot.
Yeah, how to get the best out of a shoot. Yeah, how to get the best out of a team, director, how to get the best out of a crew.
Yeah. And sort of just give them an insight.
Yeah.
And I bet you I could be really rich doing that.
Yeah. Well, you save clients.
Sell so many tickets.
But you save clients. I mean, it almost, you want it to be sold to the clients, don't you? Because you'd save them a fortune.
Yeah.
Because their money's being wasted without them realizing.
Yeah, there's definitely a little bit of it, because they certainly don't have an education about what it's like to go on a shoot, right? They go through these kind of universities or whatever, or not. They go straight into these agencies, and they're not necessarily equipped with the know-how. I mean, I certainly, when you work with creatives, they're usually quite young. And then you'll get the creative director that turns up maybe the day before the shoot, but the creatives maybe be there for the casting and and whatever. Maybe they'll come in on the tech recce, and they're there with their bits of paper, and they're like, "Can I just ask a question about this storyboard frame?" And it's like, don't worry about the technical execution. Worry about your idea.
Yeah.
Because your idea, and I feel like that's always a good trait when you see that in creatives, where they go, I think we're messing with the core idea here. We need to, I think this doesn't work. And I respect that. I think that makes sense to me. That's why they're there. Not to look on the screen and go, that pencil on the table's just a bit too red. It's a pixel big. It's a pixel big.
Yeah. I mean, I think the mark of a well-executed commercial is when someone can say, that idea was, I can't imagine that idea being communicated in a better way, right? So you get whatever that idea is, if it's communicated perfectly, then I think that's a successful,
Is what you're doing going to make? Are you going to lose the award if you were to win an award? Would you lose the award because of what you're about to do?
Is that what you have going through your head? Yeah.
Changing all the cutlery on the table to be a little bit more modern.
Yeah,
No one's
it's funny
because
agency rarely get involved in lighting because they don't know the language of light very well and they can't communicate it, and they realise that they would come perhaps embarrass themselves in saying something that's obvious or not, But when it comes to wardrobe, or anything they can relate to, like props, wardrobe, they're all over it, aren't they? Because they can relate to that. Everyone's got a taste in what shirt they like or what pencil, how red that pencil is, as you say. And everyone can relate to that. And it's kind of like, that becomes like racehorse designed by committee's a camel kind of scenario, doesn't it? When everyone's huddled around a monitor, which, when I started my career.
Give me your opinion. Everyone's like sweating.
Yeah. It's
I have to say something.
Yeah, I have to say something intelligent and something that could, not lose me my job or whatever. It's that kind of fear, isn't it? Where we're all filmmakers that have been doing it for long enough now that it's in our DNA, and we can make split moment decisions that are for the best of the job because you've been on set 1,000 times, and it's like a fireman running into a burning house. I mean, they make instinctive decisions that save lives because they've run into a burning house 1,000 times, right? And you can only get to that point when you've got it in your cellular memory kind of thing. But as you say, the agency haven't had that experience. They're brought on for either a young team, they're brought on for their relevant view on the world or whatever, their relevance to the culture or whatever. Yeah. But they're not brought on for their filmmaking skills. So there is that kind of, like you say, that's that massive lack in. It's like what they call it, the Dunning-Kruger effect. This became quite popular after Trump got into power. And the Dunning-Kruger effect is an effect of people think they're more knowledgeable when they are when you know a little bit of something. You think you know more than you know, right? So, for example, they did this test with people flying aeroplanes, and they got like a 747 tutorial, and they got one group of people to watch a 15-minute tutorial, and then the other group not. And the ones that watched the tutorial had a huge confidence on their ability to land this 747. Do you know what I mean? Because it's just like you don't know how what can go wrong at that point because you just have a little knowledge. And I think there's a real Dunning-Kruger with agency on a film set. Yeah. You haven't had enough knowledge to be useful, but you've got just enough knowledge to be to sort of
got it. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. So I think that's a problem. Like you say, and going around educating people would be a
there you go. The traveling circus.
The traveling circus. Yeah, could be a money earner. Yeah. Should we move on to another ad?
Yeah.
What do you want to talk about next?
Well, what you got? So we're staying on 2023.
23. Yeah. Should we get?
We can go on to another one that I was quite happy with this year was the Quantum Fibre.
Okay.
Unleash.
Here we go.
That's certainly got a bit of CG going on in it.
Yeah. So
this got this chap coming in and got this fibre optic thing that's going to blast your house with ectoplasm Wi-Fi. But essentially the idea is, it's like it punches very high speed Wi-Fi all over the apartment and you can now do whatever the hell you like, right? It's not the most original of ideas, but it was certainly fun to shoot. So yeah, there you go.
And is this a set or a location?
It's a house, yes. We shot in Toronto.
Yeah.
Not my most favorite place to film, Toronto, but we ended up with a very good crew on this one. What happened was because we had the strikes on in America, right? So I think everyone was kind of any project that was going on, it was kind of all piling into this place. It was all very busy. So yeah, and so we ended up with a nice little team.
Do you want to loop it, Chris? Just yeah.
So this was for America, and
do you want to talk about
PSYOP? We're doing they did the post on this one.
Yeah, do you want to talk a little bit about your relationship with VFX? And so when the idea comes to you, how do you break it down in terms of knowing what you're going to get in camera, how much you'll get in camera, and how much you're going to be reliant on VFX and CG?
The first things first, you need to know the budget.
Yeah,
I always have to ask the budget, because that's the death of touch right there.
Yeah.
If you go and you start saying everything's going to be CG, I want a CG Godzilla, whatever, right? You're dead.
Yeah.
Because then you pitched it, and then you get the budget in. They're like, oh, you've only got 20 grand for.
Because CG is expensive. Just so
CG's everything's expensive. I think that's the thing, right? It's like how do you execute something for the money? It seems to be the approach that when I first started in commercials, you would get a budget, and they would just, the script would come in, and you get your budget, and they'd be like, they don't have the money, so we're going to go in over, and this is what it's going to cost to do it right. This is what it's going to cost, and they would still give you the projects. Now you're getting the budgets in, and there's like, ain't going to happen. You're like, but we still have to make it work. So you have to come up with solutions to make it work. And so, can we afford a bit of CG? If not, then how do we achieve it more in camera with a split screen, or being clever with a bit of green screen, or how do you execute and still get the best you can for the project? And so it's like you've got the budget gun against your head all the time,
Do you have preferred post houses that you use for your VFX work?
Kind of, yes.
Are they UK when you're doing jobs?
Something like this is because with PSYOP you have to go through PSYOP.
Yeah.
Thing, right? So, because they're a production company / visual effects house. They have their roster of directors, but they also have their big post. Yeah. The big corporation, really. Yeah. And they've got the game side. They've got VR. They do TV. They do. Big company. I think there's a bazillion people. I think the last time I looked on LinkedIn that work there, maybe a gazillion. There's certainly a lot. And all those names keep changing. So I'm just a little cog in the machine over there. But they do their post. Generally speaking, though, you can travel around the world, and there's different post houses that can do stuff for you. And everyone charges differently, but you also, it's varying qualities as well, right? You have to be careful who you go with at the end as well. Like, can they execute? Like, oh, the budget's short, we're low on budget, but you don't want to go to the point where you're like, good Lord, this is just going to be a disaster. Like, you got some dodgy dude in the bedroom trying to pull it off for you, like an old computer. Yeah. It's like you have to. There's a point where you go, it's just not happening.
And do you is your principle of trying to get as much in camera as possible, or how do you approach?
That's the way I've started to move. Is to definitely become more as much in camera as possible is definitely the kind of the way to go, because everyone's there and you can see it and it's done. And there's no questioning it, and there's no messing around in visual effects for 4 weeks to get like the perfect puff of smoke.
Yeah.
You just
have you been looking into virtual production at all?
I've never really heard good things about it. You said you used it, right?
I've been involved in it. Yeah.
I never heard anyone shouting its praises. All I've heard is people saying it's good for certain things. So I've seen there was a DP showing me how he used it for, like, you got people sitting in the car driving, and they the background.
Driving's well. Have you seen the Killer, Finch's Killer? Yeah. So that's 90% of that's VR, virtual production, VP. I mean, yeah.
Really?
Yeah. That's a good example of it. That's an example of it being used very well and very intelligently. So basically, all of the driving shots, every driving shot in there is all done on a LED screen, and you'll see, if you look at the making of, you'll see how it's all been put together. But not only that, the whole opening sequence, when he's staking his kill, that's very light dependent. So that happens it goes from morning light to midday light to evening light. And all of that was shot, all of the interiors were shot on the stage with LED, because there's shots of the window when a window closes, and you can see the reflections the window, like with the live kind of
I'm curious, like what the advantage to that is, like if you do actually
control.
Yeah, but then you get control. Like for example, obviously that's a studio build, right, with the building that he's in as he's staking out.
Yeah.
And so you're kind of getting through the window, but like that's nice. But are you significantly making a massive, like it's still a stage? You're still on a
well, as opposed to what
you're just getting a nicer type of lighting,
as opposed to using green screen. Is that what you're saying?
Well, the other would be green screen, but at the end of the day, instead of getting people to key the green screen, you're now just using some kind of plate, a nice digital matte painting, right? That you can get your lighting off. And
well, I mean, I guess the main thing would be if you're moving a camera and you get this live parallax and you're having shiny surfaces at the same time, that's going to be really hard to do that traditionally because the camera's moving, everything's moving, and then you get all the reflections and everything lining up properly. So I'd say for shiny objects like car driving shots, for example, there is no better way of doing a car. I mean, the other way of doing a car driving shot is shutting off a street and having, like having low loaders and all of that stuff. That's very expensive, and you don't control day. You don't control certain streets. If you want to do that in Oxford Street, that's going to be a nightmare. But in virtual production, that's all now a possibility. Controlling, if you want Oxford Street at sunset for a driving shot, then there isn't really a better way of doing it than virtual production. For because you're dealing with a shiny car with all the reflections, and you will never be able to do that green screen effectively as doing it with LED walls. So that's this kind of sweet spot. But I do agree with you. It's been misunderstood.
It kind of gets moved around. I mean, I've yet to actually experience it myself, so I can't fully talk to it. But like you're taking, because you talk about reflections on the car in a green screen studio. Typically, what they'd end up doing is building a proxy of the car and then creating the reflections in post.
Yeah, but it would be more expensive.
It's less in camera, but it's still what they're doing is they're taking. You still then what happens is you now need to take. You have to build the scene in 3D of Oxford Circus and now project that into this studio space. And so the work is moving around. I think it doesn't, it's almost like, I'm sure they save a bit of time, but I'm sure it's not an awful huge amount of time that gets saved on the post-production side. You're just moving it around the schedule.
I mean, so what excites me, and this is we're getting into a conversation about AI here, but what excites me is at the moment with virtual production, you're building your backgrounds and you're using Unreal and you're getting kits and you're putting kits together and you're doing a lot of work. There will be a time soon, I think, where those backgrounds will be prompted from AI prompts, and then suddenly, and then you'll have these 3D worlds that you can create very easily. So I think for lower budget content work, putting someone in the green screen studio and having a whole environment around them that they can, that looks kind of photorealistic, I think that is going to be the case soon. So for, it's definitely going to have a use case for a lot of kind of content production. For the high, like really, really high end work. I mean, I think the Fincher example is quite a good example of how it can be used high end on a feature film. Yeah. Because that looks, I mean, like you said,
I'll check out the making of.
I was surprised when it's. I mean, I had a sense because I remember seeing the glass shot, and because I have virtual production on my mind at the moment. I remember when I saw the glass shot, I was like, oh, that's definitely an LED wall. But then when I went into the look at the behind the scenes, I was surprised by the extent that they used it, because every driving shot, even when the driving shots looked like they were just driving through a location during the day, they were all LED as well.
Right.
So
right.
Yeah, but I mean, it's. I think the problem with it is that firstly, there's not a deep enough understanding of where it's really best used, and people kind of, it's like Emperor's New Clothes, and everyone wants to kind of get involved. And the problem with a lot of, like Mandalorian, for example, a lot of the shooting in Mandalorian was exploring this technology, but they had to sometimes you put what's called ghost frames in when you're running on a camera. You're running two frames simultaneously, so you can have a green screen ghost frame. Because what happens if you do your virtual production and you want to change something later, you're into the world of rotoscoping, then you can't separate the bits out because they're kind of burnt in.
Right.
So ghost green screen. So basically what happens often is you do something and then everyone changes their mind and you're in a world of pain because you haven't done it green screen. Whereas we are so used to the way we grew up working is you finesse everything in post, right? So you get your kind of broad strokes, and then when it comes to post, you kind of refine everything. Whereas with virtual production, that's not how it works. You refine everything beforehand, you shoot it, and then that's it. You're done. And I think it's hard for people to get their heads around that process. And if they want to change something later, as agency client often do, it's not ideal. Do you know what I mean?
Mess,
So there's lots of limitations to it, and the whole as I say, the whole kind of process of it, the kind of workflow of it, is so different that people can't quite understand.
Yeah.
You know, at this stage. But I think with AI and everything, I think it will kind of integrate somehow with AI, and it will become something of its own.
I mean, I think you're not wrong when you say that. Although I do think we're quite a few years off till that happens.
I hope so.
We can still
we're still
able to hold our breath and get on and shoot some stuff for real. For a bit, and
but don't you think there's a human soul? Like I was watching Blade Runner the other day, first Blade Runner, and I was actually watching an article. It was a really good article actually, a guy called Wolf Crow, and he basically was talking about why Blade Runner looks so good now. If you see the first Blade Runner, it really stands up as a high end. It's an amazingly and if you compare that to the same year, it was like I think it was a Star Trek film. And E.T. and some other films, and the CG, the post effects on all of those films looks terrible compared to Blade Runner. Blade Runner was just, the standard of Blade Runner was so high, and part of the reason for that, I think, was that it was majority in camera. It's all this, they made models and they smoked up the interior of the model, so everything kind of
smoke. It was dark. It was rainy.
There
was a lot of things in front of it. But it works a treat. Yeah,
it really does. Yeah. But it makes me kind of feel like in camera, that soul of in camera. That's why I still think you look at more post-heavy sci-fi films after Blade Runner, and they don't age as well as Blade Runner. Because Blade Runner's got that kind of in-camera soul to it. Hence why kind of other filmmakers are going back to shooting less green screen.
Interesting you say that. I think there's something that, and I'm a victim of it as well. I guess when you get hold of the CG camera, there's only so much the live action camera can do. You got your model, and you're like, okay, and we're moving past the model, and it looks kind of okay. God damn it, I wish I was doing this in CG. And then you get hold of the CG camera, and it's all like, the camera's going on. There's actually just to be a little bit nice with it and not fly through the engine. And through the ventilation and go out through the exhaust. You don't need that.
It's become gratuitous.
That's when it starts to. Yes. That's when it's like, oh, that's so CG.
And that's a really good example of when you have the computer kind of world and you have the filmmaking world and the computer world, because you can do, it's like lighting in computers. You can do anything. So therefore, it ends up being a mess because none of it's motivated by reality, right? Whereas in the filmmaking world, we're more about trying to motivate things by reality. And so, like you're saying, it's like kind of calming down the CG shots and making them feel more real than kind of, because you can do it.
Bear that in mind next time I've got a CG shot. Make sure I don't go too crazy. It's true though. Okay,
what were we meant to be looking at?
Sorry. Well, we were on Quantum. We were just kind of looking at some of the CG there.
So do you want to talk about it? Because you got some characters. Were they? You got the characters coming to life.
They jump out, don't they? They're right at the start. I think it was just to represent different types of games you can get, right? So you got like a Halo guy. I'll pause there. Halo guy who got a little squishy dude. Who's I guess supposed to be like an iPhone game character. You got this guy on the right, it's supposed to be a little bit like Minecraft chap, and then on the left it's some kind of Assassin's Creed-esque Dungeons and Dragons role-playing game type character. But they were trying to go for a spread there.
But they don't exist in camera, presumably.
No, they were. We had a little mannequin that we had on a bit of wire, and we kind of
just so they could see what reflections would look like.
Well, it was really, as you know, that's kind of a fairly typical thing to do when you're filming little characters, is to have some kind of a mock
scale. So
the DP knows where to look and what's going on, and you can mock up the moves. And you go, this is my character, and he's going over here, and he's doing this, and he's jumping off the table, and then the camera goes, okay, so I know I need to go there and go down. And so that's basically what we did with this. We had a couple little toys on.
And let's talk a little bit. You mentioned camera moves. When we shot together, you like an easy rig, don't you? And you like to kind of get stuck in.
Oh yeah, yes. The goddamn easy rig.
Yeah. So do you like to kind of move the camera, kind of like handheld?
I tell you, Ian, it's the reason that I do it is part one. It's because I do like the craft of trying to be involved in making shots, but that's 50% of why I do it. The other 50% is because I have to get things done. And unfortunately, usually there's not enough time
Yeah.
to massage everything into the perfect creme de la creme, beautiful, elegant cinematic shots. You're dealing with a lot of personalities on set, and they don't necessarily want to listen to you. That you need to move on. You know, they're like, but that red pencil over there, still talking about the goddamn pencil.
Yeah.
So you know,
It's
have
good
to.
that you have that thought process, because a lot of directors, they don't necessarily think in terms of schedules and getting things shot. And
I don't like edits that don't make sense. I have to have an edit that makes sense, and I want to have material that makes sense. And so shooting on Easy Rig gives me a little bit of an upper hand to jump onto something, film something while they're maybe still deciding.
Yeah.
And I can get little bits here and there, and then I can move on. And I, you know, like I said, I do like ability to jump on camera with yourself. For example, we were working tag teaming together on a shot, and that's kind of cool and it's fun. And I think it's just my personality as well. I've always been quite hands-on with everything I've dealt with, and from the animation side to the visual effects into the live action, it's like just holding a camera makes me feel part of the process. I don't like to be the director at the back in the little tent looking at the monitor that's then barking to the first AD. Some people do that extremely well. It's just not. I like to be sat next to the camera, DP, and the actor, and that just
get a direct relation.
That's enough for me. I don't want to have to do Chinese whispers between multiple people.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Just let's talk a little bit more.
Unless you got a stinking hangover, and then
and hide behind the monitors until it's time to go and eat. So let's just play this one through. So these figures are obviously is that reflection there?
That's real dog in the reflection.
Right. Okay. And was that what? Was that post putting a chrome ball in there or something, or was that?
That's a CG character full on, and basically we had a camera where we had the dog run up.
Right. Okay. So you just had the wide angle
run up to the camera. I think we had like a treat for it to go to, and it run up and then sit, and so that's basically the shot there.
Yeah.
Where it's
that's
kind of
shot with
comped on
a wide angle lens, and then put onto the.
I think it was actually just a normal 50mm.
Oh,
and then it was just stored later in post.
Right. Okay. Okay. Good. Yeah. Let's play on from there, please, mate. Okay. And then that's just again.
There was actually two. We used two dogs actually. Yeah. There was. You don't notice the switch, but we flip between them.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Cool. That's I didn't notice. Okay.
Typical tricks, though, right? In commercials. It's also
sleight of
hand. If you can, if you're working with children, and go with twins.
Yeah, absolutely. So if one's not performing, then you got another one. You got a backup kid. And this here, the
clothes. We actually shot the clothes in a studio, and comped it in. Yeah. Into the actual plate, so it's not actually coming out. It was shot in America, that shot, and and then we art direct that. It looked like she's having some kind of a rave.
And you said this is actual location. Right?
It's all our location.
Yeah, right.
We jazzed up the bedroom. She's ripping it up.
Yeah. Let's see that.
Yeah. So there we go. That's some chef, hollow chef, turning up. It's a little bit of a live stream moment where she's cooking, and I guess people are kind of interacting. And then she's got cupcakes there. And all that's all in camera. The cupcakes are in camera. Yeah.
So you did empty plate, cupcakes in.
Drop one, drop another, drop another.
Right.
Pretty painful, but
so lots of camera, and then
yeah. We did actually do the pan. We did the pan on. We felt happy.
Pan on,
and then okay, this is a good shot. Lock it. And then start dropping cupcakes.
Yeah, good. And then the
let's talk about the footballers.
Yeah. So go back.
So there's a little behind the scenes in this one.
That's green screen, is it?
No. We just had them go for it. It's a shame because in the shot where they hit the ground, the camera they actually went through a table.
Right.
But there was two cameras. I was on the other one.
Yeah.
And he actually crashed into me. He went flying through the table, and he bumped into me. It wasn't. I didn't get hurt or anything, but he went right.
So that's all shot for real then. The two.
They're actually jumping for real
onto crash mats outside the frame.
The black dude's jumping onto a crash mat. The white guy is going into a coffee table and breaking it.
Not a props coffee table.
No, for real. He was like, you bring it. And he just went for it. So we smashed 3 tables.
Right.
But it didn't make the cut, unfortunately.
Okay. He's got that shot of glass in his leg.
It's a shame, But he was a trooper. He was like, let's do it.
Yeah. Go, here you go. Bang.
Bang.
Yeah. Excellent. Okay, because I assumed that was green screen when I saw that. And then the change of it's just matching the boy in position with
correct.
the wardrobe.
Yeah, he just came down the stairs.
Yeah.
So we're just matching it.
Yeah. Okay.
Match cutty. And that sofa, God knows how we
What's
did
the
that.
dog eating?
I forget.
How do
he's eating the beach ball of doom, when your Mac stops working.
No, I know. But what did you actually have him eating in reality?
Frisbee.
Oh, it was a Frisbee.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Frisbee. Yeah, the dog was munching away.
Yeah, cool.
But that's the way we flip the dogs, So it's a different dog.
Yeah, different
you
dog.
never know.
You never know, yeah. God, you caught me out on that one. So let's go on to Schwartzman.
It's Shwans.
Shwans, sorry.
Yeah, homemade easy. It's, they're flogging you frozen food.
Right.
Because apparently it makes life easy.
Okay.
Apparently.
Let's see. Let's have a look.
Yeah. So this, So she's getting,
getting puppeteered around with a rod or something.
We've got 2 very built Polish men.
Yeah.
Pushing her around.
So where was this shot?
It was Warsaw.
Warsaw, right.
Yeah.
And what's it? Green rods connected to her, or how's it?
It was. I think we just used wooden rods.
Wooden rods.
Yeah.
And so you the cameras, because you got a lot of camera movement here. So
all easy rig for the most part.
So therefore, they had to paint it all out in post then. So that was a pain
mission,
for them, right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So just so that our viewers understand, if you lock the camera off, then you could do an empty plate. They'd have all the background.
A lot easier.
They'd have the missing information behind the rod. But because you didn't do that, they have to interpret that information.
Got to track it all back in. And, it's definitely a lot more work.
Yeah.
But they did a smashing job.
Yeah. Right.
Prestige and Poland. So it was as you say. It's her on these kind of rigs, and she's being puppeteered around. She has to try and loosen her muscles up, so she does get pushed around a bit.
Yeah,
it's a bit
goes with it a bit.
Like a flimsy dummy.
Yeah.
But I mean, she's a bit of a trooper as well for dealing with this stuff, because she did get pushed around very aggressively.
Yeah.
And at the end, the very last shot you can see actually is even the stunt person got it bad. Stunt person crashed through the wall, went flying down and hit her face on the ground. She was out of action for at least an hour.
Wow.
And we were wondering if we should just give up and move on. Take the one shot. One shot that we had and move on. But she finally got up and busted face, and she got back into it and did a few more jump through the plasterboard wall.
Christ.
Yeah. But that was, we actually had her flying through the plasterboard. I think there's three wall smashes in this, right? One at the start, and then one at the end, and then one when she goes into the meeting room. Yeah. It was someone I actually heard stunt double did it. Do it. So by the end, she's all black and blue. But trooper, she did.
Yeah.
And then she's not jumping through the wall each time once. She's doing it 3-4 times.
Yeah.
So get the best one. But it was the first time she went through, they didn't break the wall enough. And so when she smashed through it, her body went through, but her feet didn't.
Right. And so she got flipped down.
Went forward. And then the same when she did The Office as well, the same happened.
Yeah. She's probably very annoyed with the effects construction people. Yeah. Okay, should we move on to can you pronounce that for me, because I'm gonna
Huawei.
Yeah.
Huawei, it's the Chinese phone that everyone's worried about spying on you. Xi Jinping is listening to conversations if you have.
So this is an older job, is it?
This was pre-COVID.
Yeah.
This is just before COVID happened. I was out there in Shanghai filming this.
And so talk me through the pool balls.
Well, I mean, they were real in camera, and then we do a switch to CG at some point. So
that's CG takeover.
So basically, the ball hitting the triangle set is a real shot.
Yeah.
But then there's basically in reality the ball's all shot off.
Yeah.
Like that. So when the cue ball connects, that's when we do the CG takeover.
Yeah.
And they fly towards the
right. Okay.
Boom.
Okay.
And then we go into a little CG sections.
Yeah.
Where it's all.
That's some CG.
I actually did one of these shots in CG. And
then that's set. So that's So that, and those reflections
music
on the
video
back of the phone, is that CG or is that a real reflection?
It's a CG.
That's all CG.
Yeah. But they have this, look at this glitter cover design that they were keen to promote.
Yeah.
It's almost like a holographic thing that it wasn't so fascinating, but they wanted to promote it.
Yeah. Okay. So they wanted complete control over that. Yeah. And what was that? What was that top down? Was that a techno crane? Yeah.
Techno boom down.
Yeah. And that's just
he's actually a terrible drummer. He doesn't know what he's doing.
Really?
He's just
like
floppy, useless. It was really hard shooting around.
Oh dear.
Actually, the girl on the guitar as well was so
bad,
so self-conscious.
Yeah, really.
She was freaking out the whole time, and I'm like, "Come on, jump up and down, get excited."
She's
like really
timid. Yeah.
Oh, it's the worst.
Where was this? What country was this?
This was shot in, because it's a Chinese phone, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we shot this in Shanghai.
And
when you work in China, you see, you don't have control over the cast.
Right.
The client generally chooses who you get.
Right.
So
you didn't get to do any rehearsals with them.
Nothing. So you end up with who you get. And
right.
Make it work.
So that makes it's like when I like something badly or something I like it's in the wrong place, I look back on it and I never let it, it always causes me pain. You probably do that with performances, right? When it's a bad performance.
I do it with everything.
Yeah, right. So talk about these sets then.
Built the set. It's all there for legits. It was another build.
Good set designer.
My God, I have to cast my mind back. It was. Yeah, she was a Singaporean lass. I forget her name. But yeah, she was really good.
Yeah. And that's all shot in one soundstage, was it?
Well, the thing is, I've got a story about this. I know I'm running out of time, but it was the height of winter. I think it was almost New Year, or it was just after New Year, and so it's freezing bitter cold out in Shanghai, and they didn't have anywhere to shoot. We had to film this thing. We need a big soundstage to put all these sets on. So there was a soundstage being built that wasn't fully functional yet, with big holes in it, literally gaping. It was construction. Stuff still falling off, like builders dropping hammers from above. Like, it was a disaster. And so they were so desperate, they paid them above and over to to be allowed in. And so in China, I guess health and safety is not really a thing. A bit of cash, okay, we'll off we go. And so we were, and literally we're filming, and there's snow coming down on me, and I'm like shivering. I'm so cold. And they bought these like flame burners, like, I don't know what it was. It looked like, like the F-14s. You get the fighter jets, the flames coming shooting out. They literally had these on set. These flames firing out.
Yeah.
So people are like walking past, going on fire. They're so cold, like they're standing. Have to warm up on something.
And then suddenly,
literally, the wardrobe stylist went on fire. It's like,
quick, shoot that.
Drop and roll. And people are in China, I don't know, it's maybe changed now, but they all walk around smoking cigarettes. Yeah, it's amazing. It's like, it's a non-issue. Yeah. And so we're filming this until the darkest hours in the morning, and then there's a shot right at the end of the commercial where there's like these kind of like the apps, this like magician turned up on set. So this scene here, we had this hand magician, right, and he was actually supposed to do some magic tricks with the cubes. Well, the creative director didn't like his hands last second and fired him. And so the production are like literally 5 o'clock in the morning, literally making phone calls to try and find a magician to come in who had nice hands. A magician with nice hands. Like, how insane is that? So what we ended up doing was the guy that went on fire, that's his hands.
Really? Brilliant. Yeah. Luckily he didn't burn his hands, eh? Yeah, all fun and games in Shanghai. Yeah, totally believe that. I mean, the time I worked there, we were shooting with ultraviolet lights, and then we realised halfway through the shoot that none of them were protected, and they'll just probably cause all kinds of health problems for everyone involved. Yeah. Okay, so that's that one. Should we talk about McCafe Tiny Bean McDonald's?
McDonald's, yeah.
Yeah. Let's get that up.
There you go. Nice little drone shot at the start. Kick off the commercial.
Yeah.
So this was filmed in Colombia.
Right, wonderful. Yeah. Probe lens?
You know what, it wasn't. I think from memory it was, it's just a prime.
What, with a really close focus?
I think it was a prime with a diopter.
Oh, a diopter, really?
Yeah. Was that diopter we used, or was it, maybe we didn't even, I can't remember. It's certainly not a probe.
Yeah, I think it must be a close focus because the background's sharp as well. Because you got a really deep depth of field.
I remember we had the camera and we just did prime on it, and we ended up, the coffee bean was a nightmare to get into position. And in the end, we actually just a pile of plasticine, which was fantastic because we could move that bean around with this piece of clay, and it was, you know, we had all sorts of contraptions like little rigs and wires, and but it was just a piece of plasticine that saved the day. Simplest is always the best.
Indeed. So it's a journey of the life cycle of a bean.
Basically from farm to coffee cup.
Yeah,
the life of the tiny little bean. It's it's all very idealistic. You know, selling the dream. It's not, you know, it's very far from the truth when you're there. It's a real grind for these people. Fair trade is certainly, you know,
it's questionable. How did you get on in Colombia? I loved Colombia when I was shooting there.
Great. Great. Loved it. Very warm people. I've always loved
really
working
people,
around just whatever, Central America, South America. They're wonderful people.
Yeah, I agree.
Very good.
Yeah, I felt like I was part of a family when I was there. We were shooting all around workers of Colombia, and by the end of it, I felt like I wanted to sort of move there and get them to adopt me. Okay, so anything else to comment on this?
No, I think that's it. Yeah, I mean, it's some drone shots. We had the was it the Inspire 2? I think it was at the time.
So now we're going to look at Virgin Media Red Hot Rooms. That wasn't fake, was it?
So this was BBH, I think, was the agency, and shot this in London. It's one of these things where they go, you know, oh, we want like just a nice cozy house. And so you know, as a filmmaker, you want to get a house that's a little bit bigger than you know, because you have to.
It's practicalities.
Right? And so we're showing these locations. They're like, no, it's too big. We're like, but
that's not what it's not what people. It's not what you see on camera, right? It's like,
so they kept pushing for a smaller, more humble house. And then by the end, we did end up with quite a humble house, and it was. I tell you, I've never been standing on so many people.
Right.
So as I'm holding camera, I think there was about 5 people underneath me, crawling under my legs. Some people lights.
But that's an example of the agency not understanding the filmmaking process, not understanding you can make something look small by moving into the corner of a room, for example.
Exactly.
But you need the space to
close it up.
So this is all. I mean, the sets as well, right?
Yeah, we built the sets in the house.
In the house.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So that door opening is actually opening into the room with the set.
It's all done for real.
It's all done for real.
Yeah, you'd think it's all broken down in little sets, right? But that's why it was.
I assumed it was set,
and it was in a very small house. So, and that's the house right there. So it was. So
that's if you don't mind me saying, I think that's a very bad decision made on behalf of the agency, not doing that as a set and doing it because you would have given you so much more money. Yeah, right. It's a shame, man. But that's very interesting though, because
you make it work.
You make it work, yeah, and you have made it work. I mean, you pulled it off, right? So despite the fact you're in a tiny
you wouldn't think it's a living room, but got away with it.
Yeah. It seems like quite an achievement now.
Yeah.
Okay, good. That's that. So now we're going to look at Citizen. Now it's your moment.
So this chap's a bit of a celeb out there, Takashi.
Right.
A bit of a famous Japanese, Taiwanese, I think he is.
Actor, yeah.
Yeah, celebrity actor type. He actually, they made us grade his face so he looked younger. He actually looks better when he's just untouched.
Right.
They wanted him to look like he's 21 or something.
Right.
Keyed his skin tones out and blurred any wrinkles.
Right.
But he looks better with a few wrinkles.
Right.
He's a good-looking guy, but that was shot in Prague.
Right.
Phantom. The goddamn Phantom.
Phantom, yeah.
Horrible camera.
Yeah.
Very difficult. But
it hasn't got very nice dynamic range, unfortunately.
No,
so when you compare it to an Alexa,
no, it's not comparable. I'm surprised Alexa hasn't come up with some kind of contending.
High speed. Well, I think now, I think the best contender is probably Red's. The Red V Raptor. You can shoot at 600 frames or something on that. And when you get over to 600, if it's not too much going on, then you can always use post.
Slow it down.
Yeah. But let's talk through how this all came together then. So, what elements?
This set was built.
Yeah.
It was fully built. We built the entire set for real on a sound stage. And we shot this over 2 days with this chap. Now, I wasn't very well at the time. I was having a bit of a heart problem.
Oh, shit. Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, too much partying. So I was actually on a wheelchair.
Really?
Not,
wow, being wheeled around. Have you got any BTS of that? Like Dr. Strangelove?
Oh my God, it's the funniest thing.
Yeah.
My heart was just done. I couldn't move. And so I was basically crippled, like moving around on this wheelchair. And so I was working with this guy, so he's obviously surrounded by an entourage of 20 Japanese folks that tried to look after his every needs, and so they were very energetic people, let's say. And every time he came on, there was so much fuss. It's like all he has to do is walk forward, because we're shooting Phantom, and literally all he's doing is
taking
walking,
3 steps.
Taking 3 steps.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
That's it. Cut.
Yeah.
Off he goes. 20 people following.
Yeah. I can imagine.
But the entire breakup of this is all done in CG. But we shot, like I said, we shot it all for real, rotoscoped him out. So he's not on green screen. He was just rotoed out.
So what? So why would you build a set and then
blow it up? Basically, it was just a way to deal with it. It was the process we wanted to go with.
As opposed to green screen and then
as opposed to doing it. Well, because if you build a CG set, it could end up looking CG.
Right.
So at least you've got the real stuff there that you put
got the real
textures back on.
Yeah.
And then you have all these Tetris components.
So it's just the only bit that was filmed high speed that you needed the high speed movement was his walk.
Well, it's kind of blending in. So you'll see parts like the floor there is not broken up, for example, right? Yeah. So that might be real live action floor, and they're just
and all of the elements moving past him. None of those are sort of CG.
No, we had a wind blower in there that was hitting him, so his clothes kind of ruffle a little bit, his hair moves a little bit, and we had to paint that out, obviously, or roto it out.
Yeah. So all of the blowing up is basically CG. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Yeah. Okay. Good to know. Great. All right. Could we do Intel Mobile Conquer You anywhere you go first?
That's it.
This one. Yeah. Okay. Let's watch this one first.
So those two Intels are, it's the same girl,
right?
She's like some kind of how would you say, like a gamer celeb in that world. Forget what the game is. A first person shooter. It's not Call of Duty. Anyway, and she's like one of the top ones.
What in reality?
In real life, yeah.
Right.
She's got her own Twitch channel and stuff.
Oh right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So let's talk about these transitions then. So these are all boarded transitions that are kind of, did you think in terms of the transitions first when you were kind of coming forward?
Yes. I mean, the whole thing was put together. I mean, it's one of those things, isn't it? You have to go see the locations. You can kind of talk to it a little bit in your treatments.
Yeah.
But then when you're there and you're trying to get the locations to work, and you're like, that doesn't work anymore. You have to kind of reinvent it a little bit. So you're always moving around and bobbing and weaving to try and find solutions. And so that, I think, what the original treatment had and where we ended up did stray.
Yeah.
And so you do need to kind of talk with the agency and with the client about like how it's changing, and this is a really good location, but the negatives are this. You have to adapt it, but that's a good thing because it's still going to be a good piece of work at the end. It's just
And what about let's talk a little bit about camera movement as well, because it seems to me a little bit kind of gimbally on this one. Is it?
There was a wobble added on after.
Oh right.
Yeah. So just to keep an energy going, I didn't want it to feel too rock solid.
So was it track and dolly?
There was a lot of track and dolly, or there might have been like maybe on dolly with handheld, or maybe on a beanbag or something.
Yeah.
But there was generally like always some kind of sense of
just keep it live,
frenetic. Like over here and then we're over there.
Yeah.
Rather than nice, heavy cinematic moves.
Yeah. Okay. Where's this shot?
I think this was Warsaw as well.
Warsaw, right?
Yeah.
Do you have a regular kind of service company that you use there, or is it?
I've worked with Papaya a fair bit out there.
Yeah. They're good, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. There's a bunch, but Poland seems to have cropped up a fair few times in the bids. It's like Poland's affordable.
Because of Ukraine, probably. Because didn't the radioactive...
No, I'm talking even pre-Ukraine.
Pre-Ukraine, yeah.
Poland was always very competitive. Yeah. I mean, Ukraine was even more competitive.
Yeah.
I was never a fan of filming in Ukraine.
Right.
I found like, unless you're a big name going over there, you weren't necessarily getting the A-team.
Right.
And so I would go over there and sometimes I got good people, sometimes I didn't.
Yeah, right.
It was kind of inconsistent, and the thing about Ukraine was they were very up and coming. They were the Poland at the time, and you could get young crew, and they were very like kind of, they want to learn, they want to do, but they're not necessarily the best trained. And I feel like the good people had got, it was like Poland was the new Prague, so it went, and then then Poland got good, and that became the new Prague. Prague's very expensive now, I feel, and then Poland's sort of kind of good prices, but I feel like that's kind of changing as well, and everyone's trying to find the new. I think Lithuania is coming up.
Chris will tell you about that. Yeah, yeah. Chris will Lithuania. I've always had really good experiences in Lithuania. Yeah, every time I shot there, I thought it's a beautiful place as well.
Yeah. I've not been, but it seems to be coming up on the bid list.
Yeah. No, I'd take the chance and go if you can. Yeah. So Intel Performance Multiplied. So yeah, this is the one with the go on the shares.
That's this one. Yeah.
Yeah. So do you want to talk us through?
Motion control.
Goddamn emotional control.
Emotional control. Yeah, you really have to have emotions under control. Yeah. It is, oh my goodness. Well, we're really zoomed in on this image, but it's basically it's like it was a motion control job. It was tough. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it just takes time to program it. And you're like, what's taking so long? Just come on.
And the deselected focus here, it looks a little bit swing and tilty.
There was a bit of swing tilt going on. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was done in post, or that was actually
it was done in camera.
In camera. So you use swing and tilts on motion control.
No. There's there's shots where it's on dolly.
So
the whole thing is a motion control. It was a combination of motion control and dolly.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and handheld.
So you actually use traditional Arri swing tilt lenses, because it really I really like that. I was thinking if you've done that in post, you've done a really good job of that, because it looked in camera to me. So it just adds something, doesn't it?
Well, it's not exactly the most exciting background. I felt like it was one of these things. The agency were determined to have they wanted a white, clean, empty space.
Yeah,
I felt like filming in there was just going to kill us. So the tilt shift was a way of giving a bit of something additional. Yeah. I would have rathered we didn't film in that location and had somewhere, or at least been able to art direct it with some lights or something.
Yeah.
They were very against it.
Yeah. They wanted it a clean kind of austere.
Yeah, they wanted it to be very empty.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the word they use, clean. But I would say boring.
Boring, yeah. yeah. But no, I do. As I say, I do like what those lenses have brought to it. I think that because they don't get used that much these days.
No, they don't.
People find
it's a bit 90s, wasn't it? Yeah. Like the music video stuff.
I have a set in the other room.
Nice.
Yeah, I love them.
Yeah.
Okay, so what job is this one?
This is for Comcast. Comcast in the States.
Okay.
Got to get yourself some good Wi-Fi, otherwise everything freezes around you.
Yeah. I can see that.
Help me. So this was we shot this on a Techno Dolly. So Techno Dolly is a fantastic piece of equipment. Right. It's notorious in my experience for breaking down.
Right.
I tend to prefer to shoot on Techno Dollies, not motion control Milos.
Okay, so a techno dolly is a form of...
It's a type of techno crane that's programmable.
Right, okay.
And so what you can do with it is you can hold the camera, and you can it goes limp.
Oh, so like a mimic. You do the move.
Okay, and keyframe.
Yeah.
You move over there, and
keyframe. And it repeats the move for you.
Play.
Yeah.
And so it can loop. It does have a bit of a wobble on it.
Yeah.
It's not Milo standards. It's not like a tank that's to the pinpoint.
Yeah.
But when you're filming a wide shot and you're not necessarily in amongst the minutia, you're filming a wide shot on a 25mm or something.
Yeah.
And it's got a little move to it. You don't see it when you try and match the plates up for an effect. So we shot this in Mexico, and we had the Techno Dolly turn up. Like I said, the Techno Dolly, every time I've worked with it, it pretty much broke down. So it broke down on this job. It decided to stop moving on the track. It didn't want to move on the track. I was like, God damn it. So they flew people in from LA to try and have a look at it. And so we're thinking, please, work. And the guy from LA was just grave-faced, pale, and he's like, no, ain't happening.
Oh, no.
And it's gone. So we had to come up with new moves. It was supposed to actually arc and
track at the same time,
And
so then you just had
to reinvent
the jib arm, but you didn't have to track.
But it is extendable.
Yeah.
So I think it does 12 feet or something, 15 feet.
Right. It's
not the longest arm, but it gave us, actually in the end, it was more than enough. I didn't really feel like we needed it to be like flying all over the place.
So, and explain that how the high speeds, did you shoot high speed passes on that then?
And freeze and action.
Yeah.
And that's how we did
Really?
it. We just got everyone.
What about the skateboarder then? When the skateboarder's
it's basically it's he's on the skateboard and he does his trick.
Yeah.
He's actually a proper good skateboarder. I had problems with him because he's so good he doesn't know how to fall.
Oh right.
So I was like, come on, you just have to fall on the crash mat.
Yeah.
Just jump off your skateboard and fall on the crash mat. He couldn't do it.
Yeah.
So what we ended up doing was we had a CG double.
Yeah.
So he does actually jump up and do the grind.
Yeah.
And then the CG double does the fall, and then we put him on a rig.
Yeah.
On the ground, floating. So it makes sense. So live action to CG double that falls, that then becomes the live action of him frozen in time on a rig that we paint out.
So you have him at the right height though on the rig.
Yeah, he's basically on some kind of like a bunch of like little Apple box type things.
Yeah, and just kind of roughly at the right height, and you sort of blend it together with the
CG character falls into the position.
Yeah,
that he's then the live action plate.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good. Okay, so that's that one, and then the basketball player.
Yeah, basically, it's different positions with him that we morph between. So we get him in one position, we do the move.
Yeah.
And then we lift him up on the rig a little bit.
Do the move.
And then do the move again. And then basically we did a morph between the two.
Right.
So it looks like
okay.
But we're cheating it.
Yeah, lovely. Very, very good. Okay. And is there another one? I'll just see what else is there.
That's the end of the commercial.
Yeah, that's the montage at the end. So skateboarder.
Yeah, there's your double.
Bang. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Good.
Yeah, that's the more.
Yeah. And that's just because his legs are splaying as well. So
he was holding the move. He was holding position. There was no leg supports for his legs.
So was he hung by?
He was just on
a wire.
On a rig.
Yeah.
Body rig.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, that's really good. Okay, it's astronaut. Okay, so never mind a Nevada album cover.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
So that was a. Did you actually chuck a baby in the water?
Believe it or not, we did.
Yeah.
We didn't just throw one; we threw five.
Just in case one of them didn't survive.
Well, funnily enough, they do actually have a pool out there that.
Where's that?
I think we shot in Prague. I think it was for this one. Yeah, it was Prague. There's a pool for throwing babies in, or dunking babies.
Wow.
Mothers go there and they dunk their babies in the water.
Yeah.
Baby swimming.
So to teach them how to swim.
But they put them underwater as well.
Yeah,
and babies have a natural reflex where they stop breathing when they go underwater. Nature. Amazing, right?
Yeah.
I think that lasts up for the first 4 months of their 5 months of their life or something. If you dunk a baby, it automatically stops breathing.
Right. So the person who discovered that basically had to dunk babies up until the point where they didn't do that anymore.
I know. I don't know how they came up. They figured it out. Yeah. So we were throwing babies in. Then I think we shot that particular shot on red. So we were kind of chucking the babies in the water. It's something like 300 frames a second or something like that.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the babies, when you actually throw them in the water, naturally their faces are quite surprised.
Yeah.
And so it took quite a few takes, unfortunately, of throwing babies in the water to get a baby that didn't look shocked.
Shocked, right.
Too shocked. But their mothers were all there.
Only in filmmaking.
They were all up for it. Like, go throw my baby in again.
Surprising how up for it mothers are, isn't it?
Yeah. Chuck him some cash.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was, so that was quite fun. But yeah, that was the only shot we did on red. I'm not a massive fan of red personally. I think the rest was Alexa with some nice sphericals. I think it was. But we didn't shoot anamorphics on that one. No, I think it was Master Primes maybe.
Right.
On this one. But yeah, I mean, it was a 4-day shoot. I look at it and I go, it's 4 days, like amazing now, right?
Yeah, to get a 4-day
this done now and much less. But
yeah, absolutely.
There was a bit of a luxury with this one. So yeah, we shot the hell out of it, and cast naturally four women, 4 girls, growing up over time.
Yeah.
And tried to get them all to look the same, which is no easy feat, I tell you.
Yeah.
That's a tough. I've done it a couple times. Once you've done it once, you start seeing scripts like that over and over. Where it's like,
because it's
you've done that, so we can give you another script. It's tough casting.
Yeah.
Very hard finding people that are the same.
Yeah, I can imagine. And you said sphericals in this one. So do you have a reason for shooting sphericals or anamorphics? Or
I don't remember why. I was working with Chung Hoon Chung. If you know him, he's like he's I think he's shooting one of the Star Wars films now. I think
right.
He did Old Boy. He shot
right. Oh, okay. Yeah.
I don't know why, but he chose these lenses.
Yeah.
I think anamorphic was on the table, but a lot of the time these conversations when you offer up anamorphic, the client's like, well, but the black lines.
Yeah.
I'll lose
so hard to
picture.
sell. Well, certainly now
and it's like, well, what's the point?
With social media, it's become hard to sell now.
Oh, it's a nightmare.
Yeah. Actually, let me ask you your relationship with DOP, because do you work with different DOPs in the different countries? Is that
sometimes I don't have much of a choice. They're like, are you willing to work with someone local? You just have to see that's becoming kind of more common. Is like I used to certainly see, oh, we'll fly the first AD and we'll fly in your production designer, like as if it was needed. We'll fly in the DP, and it's chopping back.
Yeah.
And it's like, how can we make it work?
Yeah.
So
I've noticed that.
More common to work with a local.
Yeah. 70% of my work was abroad. Now hardly any of it's abroad.
Yeah.
So I've really noticed that.
Yeah.
But do you have any? How do you know when you got a good DOP or not a good? What's your kind of gauge of? What's your kind of? What do you look for in a DOP?
Well, you try to avoid bad attitudes, that's for sure. You certainly get some DPs that get a fluster from time to time. Why would I shoot that that way or whatever? And you're like trying to make things happen. And it's just like, the last thing I need is my DP to.
You just need compliance. Yeah,
it's not so much like they don't need to be like a slave to me. Like, you do want to be in conversation.
You want to be pulling in the same direction. Though.
Yeah, but you also need to know, like, if the ship needs to move in a certain direction and we need to get something done, e.g., I don't have time for the lights to go up right now, and you got to make it happen with whatever is here in the next 2 minutes, because I'm going to lose the shot because my producer's breathing down my neck with like acid, and I need this shot for the edit. How can we get it done? Jump on the easy rig, do something. And if they're not okay with me doing that, then I'll probably not work with them again. It's probably one of the big things for me is when it needs to get flexible, to allow it, try and make it work somehow. If it means getting your iPhone out and using that as a light, then just do it. Not that I want to go that way, but just sometimes there's that one shot that's going to be on screen for 24 frames, 20 frames, and it just creates that little connect in the edit. No one's ever going to say the light. That whole thing was great, but that one shot that wasn't properly. So you can do wonderful things in the grade sometimes to blend it in. I said I don't like doing it, but it's just, you will find yourself in situations where you need to like really just get down and dirty, do something quick. Okay, move on. We'll get, we can focus somewhere else.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. And to finish up, let's talk a little bit about where things are going now, in your opinion, with regards to technology and with regards to the industry. We touched on it a little bit earlier, but is there anything you want to sort of sum up and where you think where your career is going in particular, or
It's well, I mean, if it's the $1 million question, right? If I can get that right, then I could make myself become a millionaire overnight, right? I don't know which way it's going. I think that's the thing, is it's going in so many different directions right now. It seems to be like you've got this squabbling of production and post and visual effects houses going in a certain direction, trying to get everyone's work standing on each other's toes, going for clients, trying to become an all-in-one solution. But then you've got all this new technology coming up, like the LED screens, and like the fact that you can now do so much more with AI, and the kid with the 5D camera that I grew up around, where people had their 5Ds and they were doing their show reels on it. Now it's the kid with the iPhone and a bit of AI. Right, and it's gonna punch everyone in the face when it really gets going. And I think,
how long do you think we got left of?
I mean, I'm looking at some of the stuff that's coming out of, like, you know, the Pika Labs or whatever it is, and it's not great, but when it works, it's just going to work one day, right? You go, it's not there yet, and then, you know, in a month it's there, and you're like, what the hell? Like, but I think the problem with it right now is it's the same with like something like Midjourney. It is tricky to control over a certain amount of shots. You can get one really good looking shot, but to make sure the same character appears in different angles.
Yeah.
But that will get figured out. Will it change everything? I don't think. I think we're going to be in. I think we'll be, touch wood, I think we're going to be working for a while. Yeah, I think the industry is quite stubborn. People like certain protocols to be followed. Like, I am a client and I expect this. They don't want the kid with the iPhone with the AI to be running havoc and telling them what they wanted. There's a system at play that's sort of going to protect us for a while before it really dominates. So I think we're around for a while yet, but that technology is going to creep in, and we're going to have to try and adapt to it as best we can, much in the same way as when or a nice example might be when hand-drawn Disney animators got overtaken by the 3D animators. We're going to see that happen in our industry. You kind of have to adapt to it. The hand-drawn animation is still there. You just have to use a computer to do the hand-drawn stuff now. It still exists. I think that's kind of what's going to
I'm inclined to agree with you on that. Yeah, I think you're right. I think there's always going to be a need for a connection to soul, and having a real person in front of whatever environment it is at the moment. I think that's going to continue for a while. That's a kind of uncanny valley feeling when you see a face that's not quite human. But like you say, I think it's just it's evolving, and it will find a way of evolving it'll be a tool that will evolve into everything we're using now, but it will be a very, very powerful tool that will definitely change the landscape of how we go about things.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. Mate, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Pleasure's all
Yeah. No, I really enjoyed this one. And thanks for all your insight. And I just know our audience are going to get a lot from the breakdowns, and also from some of your, your insights into your whole, how you conducted yourself over your career and all you've learned. So yeah, thank you so much.
Good stuff, Ian.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Good.